I don't know. That's a that's a difficult question. But to be more specific for a musician, I mean, the practice, every day to be able to devote some time for yourself, the sunrise meditation, you take time for yourself. I think that's one of the most important things. That's what has helped me. That's how I recharge. That's how I learn music.
We're here today at University of Tampa with Grigorios Samparas. Just a few days ago, you had a concert in here with 2 pianos. It was very impressive. And you've lived here for 18 years or so. You're originally from Greece.
That's right.
And you've been at the Bonfin and you know the teaching. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
This is where I am now for, like you said, 18 years. I work full-time as a piano professor, and I give concerts. I travel doing piano concerts, but this is my base. I go to Greece, work with the students, visit my family. I love traveling, and I grew up in Greece.
And you met Yorgos Manesis, who was the president of the FBU in Greece a long time ago when you were young.
I met him when I was 12, and he was my piano professor. In my hometown, in Lamia, he was the director of the conservatory, and back then it was just, I was living in a dream, in paradise. I didn't know what was happening, but I was in music and under his influence and his presence, and then went to Portoheli many times as a student. Without me realizing it, I was exposed to many other things, philosophically, how to live and how to think about music, how to, in a way I didn't know the teaching, but I was exposed into the teaching of Master Ivanhoff. And then now, after all these years, with my mind and my intellectual ability, as we grow, now I understand all of those things that I have experienced. So in a way, it was wonderful because you're next to a teacher, a master, in my case, music, who was very familiar with Omraam. And then I experienced a lot of things, and now I have internalized them, and I'm able to explain things and understand them.
How did that manifest itself? How did Yorgos weave into your teaching, the teaching of the master?
Through music, I think it was just his presence, being an example, and the atmosphere he created. I think that's the most important thing with his students. And in Portoheli, it's you've been in Portoheli. It's a place next to the water.
Tell us about Portoheli.
And now we have the festival that we continue. It's a music festival we have. He started it.
Who is we?
Now we continue. It's myself and a couple of other former students, Yannis and Stefanos in Greece, Yannis Grigorios and Stefanos Theodoridis. With 3 of us, we're kind of in charge of the festival. I bring artists from Greece, from here, from the US, and then we have a lot of artists from Greece and other places, and parts of Europe. And so we continue the music festival. But this is where I basically grew up, me and many other former students.
And Portoheli is the center?
Yes, it is also, yeah. It's a spiritual center.
Of the Brotherhood. Yeah. And it's Yorgos who introduced you to sunrises, and he taught you.
So it was always, the early morning sunrise meditation. I was learning music, I was memorizing the scores, doing work with the score and the music score. And I developed, without realizing it, photographic memory back in those days. And now that's why now when I play something that I have studied when I was in my teens, I have to use the same edition, the same score, because I remember where everything is on the page. It's a photographic memory, but that is done early in the morning. You know, you can visualize things and internalize things, and I mean, you can do a lot of work this early in the morning, especially with sunrise meditation. And this is just one part of it, the mental work. And I didn't plan on it, but then I realized, oh, I'm having my photographic memory is really good now because of all of that. Now I realized what was happening back then. You know, through music. With this music is, it's a spiritual experience. You know.
Would Yorgos teach you to think about light also, to project?
Yes, and you know,
What would
according to
he,
my age, later on more, you know, he did that with all of his students, work with light, like,
for
and
example, can you be more specific?
throughout the years, I was able to understand it more. Back then, I would hear things and I would try to do it from the sound or from the intellectual part, like to learn music, to memorize music, but I was exposed in this, so I couldn't understand it back then that well, to tell you the truth. You know, it was not as clear.
And when you perform, what is your,
All
where are
the
your thoughts?
experiences are several experiences. When you perform, you think you are, I don't know, something else plays through you. Especially when I know something very well, a piece of music that I have played many times, I know the notes really very well, and I can be freer. Then you feel like Yorgos used to say to me, you see, all of those things I have heard before, and now I understand the real meaning. That he used to say, you have to get to a point that it's not you who plays. Like in German they say es spiel, right? It plays.
Yeah.
So it has to be something else through you, which is now I realize, yeah, it's our spirit in a way. It's no, and so to get to that point, of course, he taught me how to be very relaxed, you know, physically, how to move, how to treat your body in a way that doesn't get in the way. You know, like all this emotion and all this power and what you want to express through the music, it's not blocked. So then it's a different kind of energy when you perform. So that's the experiences I've had now with works like Liszt. For example, I played in Miami last week, religious music by Liszt, you know, St. Francis of Assisi preaching to the birds, and there's another legend, St. Francis of Paula walking on the water. And then you realize something is so powerful, emotional intensity that comes from somewhere, you know, and Liszt was connected with this. Liszt is an amazing example of that. So that it plays through you.
How would you prepare yourself before going on stage to play?
This I learned that from Yorgos back then. That, you know, it's like you switch the light, so all of the lamps we have inside us. So you meditate. It's like you can be you imagine in a darker room, and then all of a sudden you go on stage and everything is light up. And then it helps because when you're on stage, all the lights are on you, so you feel like you radiate light. But I usually take time, you know, half an hour at least, you know, be quiet. I don't want to see people and really prepare for a concert. And Yorgos used to tell me that all the great artists did that. Maria Callas was amazing in that, how she would come on stage and it was like she was transformed.
Can you give some examples of how Yorgos relayed to you what the master said, what the master told him?
Okay.
That'd be very interesting.
I know that he had worked a lot with Master Ivanhoff on certain things and specific repertoire, like the Chopin Nocturne. Yorgos told me once, but that was several days, and that he would do work with the score, you know, to know every single note, every single detail, every crescendo or decrescendo, piano or forte, and then it was a method, I think, several days, and then you away from the piano, all this work, and then to visualize that. And I remember that he told me that he did that work with at Bonfin with the Chopin Nocturne, the C minor. And then after several days a week, he performed that in the hall, in the main hall there, and everybody was in tears. You know, it was so. Like Yorgos felt that he had the audience on his hand, like every note. You know, he would dissipate the sound before playing it, and he felt like it's like you grasp everyone. You have everyone under your, you know, under your influence in a way.
Any anecdotes that Yorgos would relate to you about that the master would share with him about
Anecdote?
music, anecdotes, or
I don't remember.
interesting stories that he would convey to you?
Yeah, I have to think. I know that he went to some of his concerts, and he would sometimes you'll be very critical with him. Like he would say, "Why do you start with this work like a Schubert sonata? You know, which is 30, 40 minutes. You have to start with something very simple, and the audience cannot, concentrate for 30 or 40 minutes with something that is so divine and so deep. You know, you have to know how to program music." So he would tell him things very specific about his programming.
Wow.
Like you have to start with something simple, 5, 10 minutes and a dance or something. And then you serve the main course in a way like something that takes more concentration, attention. You know, everybody is rushing to go to the concert hall. Here, you cannot just make them listen something for 40 minutes. That is like a last sonata by Schubert, which is, you know, so deep and divine.
Now you've been to the Bonfin, you've been to Portogelli. What can you,
Switzerland, Bedelinata.
Switzerland, Vidinata. What can you tell us? How does going to a center impact your life and
As a
vice
performer,
versa?
you know, recently I was in Bedelinata and it was amazing, you know, for New Year's. There's something special, you know, the work the people do there, the spiritual work, how they concentrate, and then you sit down and play and you feel like right away you're connected, like your sound is different, the atmosphere is so different, so, you know, so loving and so, I don't know, I can feel it in the sound in my playing, and it's very special. For a musician, this is ideal, you know, the whole, you know, teaching of that we have, it's you can apply so many things.
Can you give me some examples? What would be the most important?
You learn how to live, you know, as an artist. How you live affects how you perform, how you know, and we have such a important role to influence people. You know, you play for sometimes 500, 600 people. Last month, I remember, I was in Puerto Rico performing in a festival, 600 people in the audience. You gotta make them happy. You have to make them feel something, what we call you have to touch their heart, their soul, feel like they go back to something that is lost, you know, what we call the lost paradise in a way. So to do that as an artist it's my responsibility. How do I live every day? You know, I cannot be in a chaotic environment or live a chaotic life, because then my art will be influenced by that, and I cannot express all of my emotions that I have like many artists do. Or you go to an exhibition and you see something that is dark and heavy and it makes you depressed. You know, as an artist, that's not our role to make people depressed or anything negative. So that's what you learn with the teaching, you know, and learn how to live, how to be an artist of your own life, and then you know, perform that way. And it's amazing because music gives you all these tools. You know, you connect with the personality of someone like Beethoven, who brings such a higher message in this world. And then you go really deep into the spiritual, the spiritual part of this music, above the notes, above the mind, and the common emotions and feelings we may live. You know, with Beethoven, you go to the universal emotions, and that's how you relate to the teaching. You go to the not our personal egotistical emotions and feelings we live. Or we want to express anger sometimes. No, we shouldn't express that publicly as an artist. You have to express something much higher. That's why I don't like performing some of the modern music or some music that makes me sad and depressed. That's why I consider Beethoven's music so much higher than music by Tchaikovsky, let's say. Makes you a little melancholic, depressed. And of course, modern music that I don't know where to begin. Sometimes it's so, I don't know, dark and heavy and complicated and complex and doesn't appeal to your heart. But of course, there's some great contemporary music too. But that's an example of how you apply the teaching to your art. You gotta be an artist of your own life in a way. And that's another thing now I remember that the master used to say to Yorgos, you have to play music that is inspired. Not all of music is good. You have to really know what to pick that will make you grow and feel good. And of course, another thing, who is your audience? This kind of quality, and when you're looking for something so special, who do you play for? Like Jesus, what did he say? Don't throw pearls to the swine, right? So, what, in a way, who is your audience? So this work we do, that's why it's so special to play in the centers, because then the audience there is very special. I think that's how I feel. Like I can play Schubert, I can play Chopin, and it doesn't have to be big and loud and extroverted and fast, and that will impress the general audience. It can be something more spiritual, introverted, more esoteric, and people will get it. And it's a salon kind of setting, not a big concert hall. So it's special, I think.
Will people even get the late string quartets by Beethoven?
Oh, well, like the fugue, the grosse
Yes, die
fugue.
große Fuge.
It depends how you play it, but the same thing with Beethoven, not all of his works are great. I like the piano sonatas. No, don't want to play all of them because I don't think all of them are that great.
Yes.
And
Some are bland.
that's what Omraam, that's another thing that he said to Yorgos. You have to pick the music. And even with Beethoven, not all of them, not all of his works are really, there, great, like the Ninth Symphony. So some of the late quartets are wonderful, yeah. And I have played actually a transcription of the grosse fugue. It's more fun to play it, the energy and the vitality. I don't know if it's so much fun for the audience, but for sure there's greater works to play. Like for the piano, like the late sonata, the last sonata, Opus 111 or Opus 110. Those late sonatas are amazing, and they have fugues too. But that's just one example. I mean, and I love Liszt's music, the spiritual part of Liszt, not just the Hungarian Rhapsody and the Bohemian part.
Well, we all love that.
But we love that too, yeah. But there's more to Liszt than that, yeah. For sure.
Of all the methods and practices of the teaching, which ones would you describe as standing out for a musician?
For a musician, wow. I don't know. That's a difficult question. But to be more specific for a musician, I mean, the practice, every day to be able to devote some time for yourself, the sunrise meditation, you take time for yourself. I think that's one of the most important things. That's what has helped me. That's how I recharge. That's how I learn music. Like nowadays, athletes, you see the great athletes, most of the work is here. They use the term, the visualization. It's not physical. So at this point, and I've done the work, the technique and all that, a lot of the work is here. So what better way to combine this with the teaching? Like, specifically what to do early in the morning. You have to restore, kind of way, peace inside you, right? And connect with the light and make sure, and then it takes time, and it's not every day is not the same, and it's not easy.
You mentioned that you enjoyed having been to Vineta recently, the center in Switzerland, above the beautiful lake of Geneva. What entices you to go to a center? Why do you keep on
Well, it's
returning?
the atmosphere. I mean, it's the, you know, when you go to Vidilinata, it's, I remember something on the a wall, it says, come here not to learn, but to live, right? And then when you leave, I mean, when you leave this place, you feel like you have learned more. So you come here to experience things, not just to learn. I think it's, you have to experience it. The people, how they create the atmosphere, the, you know, helping everyone, you know, it's like you get out of the personality that we call it, of our little self, or you become more selfless, you become more loving, and then I can sense that in my music right away. I mean, it's so much better. I mean, it's the criteria is my sound, you know, because it comes from my whole being. So I'm like, I'm at peace again. It's like I found my family again, you know. I have this moment that I played, it was New Year's, and I was, after breakfast, I played something for the new year, and I felt so good, you know. I play music in this environment. It's just something that you feel that is, you can't describe it, you know. It's so that's what you experience in the centers. It's magical in a way.
For our viewers who haven't yet been to one of those centers, how would you describe that ambience? You mentioned ambience a few times. How would you describe that? What's unique about it that you don't find elsewhere?
It's a feeling of lightness, of happiness. How do you describe happiness? You don't know. It's just a state, right, of consciousness, like we say. It's like, it's hard to describe. You just have to experience it. And of course, what's amazing is the landscape, the environment. And then you have some free time, and you feel like you want to walk in the woods or take even a walk down in the city, and you feel so good because you're in nature. That's the most important thing with those centers. You're in nature. So the energy is different. I felt very, I mean, rejuvenated all the time. I mean, I left and then I came here and I felt like I was, after 8 days, you know, I feel like that's real vacation in a way, meaningful.
And yet you were working and contributing
And
to
then, of course,
collective
you
life.
go there to work. Yeah, of course, you always do things. And now I thought of something because you mentioned earlier about the invisible, the source. You know, I was reading about a few weeks ago about the, you know, the Saint John, the Revelation. That, no, not the Revelation, the Gospel, that he says in the beginning it was the Word. Now I connect to what you said, that in Greek we use the logos, the term, not the word. That, like, they translate in Greek the word like the text or the speech, but we have the term logos. And you asked me where is that light comes from, the invisible source. Maybe that's the logos, right? The invisible light.
What does logos mean? Can you explain?
Logos is a term we use in Greek. So I guess how I understand it and how I think the master has explained it is the logos is the invisible before it's manifested, in a way, through speech, through your thoughts. So it's the thoughts that you think and the feelings that you have, in a way, before they're manifested through written words or speech.
Or through
playing, exactly. That's exactly right. Because now I just made the connection. You asked because I just read about it again, and you connect with the logos also.
So it's the thought behind the word.
Behind the thought behind the words, you know, and the feelings.
The impulse. It's almost like the impulse.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's important to work with light, because then your logos is it's like you dip it something in light, you dip it in, it has that element of the divine. So the same with the music. That's why we have to select the repertoire that is inspired, that you can do this kind of work. They can have the elements of that element of the logos, of the divine. element. That's how I understand it.
Going to Portogeli, how does that differ to Vilnata, for example?
It's a different setting, you know, it's summertime. Portugal is great for the summer because you can swim, the ocean is right there. And of course, the sun is so bright, you know, the colors are so beautiful, vivid. I mean, the best sunrise you can, I think, experience it in a way in Greece and Portugal. I mean, it's just in the summertime, it's so clear, you know, there's no humidity, and so
And of course, it has Greek food.
Greek food, of course, everything's really good.
But in terms of ambience, it's very similar to Vilnata, or
Yes, and very different. That you know, it's a different environment. You're outdoors all the time, but I mean, the festival is a different thing because it's, you know, we have artists and
Sure.
come from all over the world. But before the festival, when we do our group meetings, it's a lot of similarities. You know, the schedule and what we do, the exercises. It's nice. We do the panevrythmi also, which is beautiful to do outside,
and the concert, that's every August, every year in
mostly in
August?
August. Yeah, late July,
festival?
the festival, late
It lasts
July,
1 week,
at least 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
sometimes more. Yeah, depends if we open it in the last part of July, it can go until August 12th or.
And so everybody from the world is invited. Do you have enough space?
Yes, we do. We'll find the space. Yes.
Any last comments about the teaching and how it impacts your life?
Oh, it has impacted my life tremendously, and I'm very grateful. And of course, my music, and I love what you do here in the United States to keep us all connected, and I think that's very important, really, in these times that we live in. It's like you feel like you belong into a community, a family, and I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. Could I ask you to play something?
Sure, I'd
for
love to
us?
play. Yeah.
Thank you.